Hey there, it's 9 o'clock on Sunday, the 26th of September. I'm just I'm just going through my charts to write my reports for Sunday night. And I'm just looking at these markets. They're increasingly hard to read. You know, we really are stuck in big sideways trends that have been well established for months, really. You know, this is the gold chart. So up here, I've got on the top right here, I've got the daily chart, and you can see there is no pattern or trend to follow. You know, beginning of August, big dump, then a full recovery. We have drifted lower through September, but not really a very consistent trend that you could follow. Certainly, you know, long periods of sideways trend, up one day, down the next. Okay, big dump, no follow through whatsoever. A very gradual recovery, then another big dump, and then obviously a blue day on Friday where we sort of stabilized. But you know, if I was going to say, if someone said to me, where do you think this is going to be in a month? There's no trend pattern, anything for me to go on to know, you know, to have any sort of intelligent guess. The 1 hour chart gives us a short term downtrend, but even then, I'm not sure if the Fibonacci levels are really being respected the way they should do. Maybe the 200-hour moving average is, but the 100 doesn't seem to be having much effect either. And when you look at the weekly chart, well, you know, really we've been going sideways throughout the whole of this year, throughout the whole of 2021. You know, I mean, we're now trading where we were at the end of February, and these little highs here for Q3 of 2021 are just around the lows of January. So, you know, as you can see, we're just going nowhere. Certainly, if you were a long-term investor in gold, you'd have been a bit bored and disappointed because, as I say, we really haven't gone anywhere for the year. When we look at silver, well, the sideways trend really is even bigger, isn't it? It goes back to at least Q3 of 2020. In fact, we're just retesting some of those lows from Q3 2020, Q4 2020. We've broken the previous low at 2250 for 2021. But, you know, you can't really call this much of a bear trend. Okay, a bear trend maybe over the last 3 months, as you can see on the daily chart. So that gives us something more to follow, but certainly longer term, not much. Short term, okay, there is a bear trend. So I guess I would be more on the side of a short position than a long position. But the thing is, we have tested the 500-day moving average, the 200-day moving average, that is, and that has held. So the question is, does that support hold and then we reverse that that sort of 3-4 month bear trend, or do we break it and then really see some moves to the downside? The 100 week moving average and the 200-day moving average, they're both offering some support in silver at the moment. Aussie dollar, well, we're trading around where we were mid-July, around the lows of mid-July. So again, certainly with this, in the last 2 to 3 months, we have really only been trading sideways. We had got a bit of a bear trend going on for, let's say, 4 months from the middle of Q2 to the middle of Q3. But again, not a huge trend really to rely on, and I can't see any particular pattern here. We do end up with these periods where we just go sideways for a long period of time. Well, good recovery initially from mid-August up to the beginning of September, and then we've reversed more than half of that, and now we're in one of those periods where we're just not really going anywhere for the last week. New Zealand dollar even worse. We're still trading where we were in the middle of June. A very big sideways period here for 2 months. Then we thought we might be moving, broke out the range, but then just recovered, traded up a little bit, and now we're back in that sort of range area. So this is really, this is more of a moaning video than a sort of educational video, something where I can actually give you an idea of where the markets are going to go. But I just wanted to point out to you how difficult it is to read these markets, increasingly so. You know, so I'm working very hard in my reports to give you some good trading levels, but it really is a very difficult job to do. This is the Aussie Yen, again, sideways, no clear pattern. We'll go up for a week or two, then down for a week or two, and then recover, but, you know, no clear pattern, trend, or anything to go on. Unfortunately, September has been a good month for us. I can only think of one bad day, which was Thursday last week when the yen collapsed, and I didn't see that coming. But otherwise, I think it's fair to say we've had some pretty good levels to trade throughout September. Most days we're making decent, consistent money. So I have my techniques that I use in these conditions to try and identify short-term levels that we can at least scalp. But it really is obviously just scalping. We're looking for 30-40 pips if we're lucky, risking 20-25 pips. As you know, that's pretty much my strategy, and it has been working. But I would really love to see some sort of breakout where we could get a trend to follow for 2 or 3 days and not have to scalp for 30-40 pips on a trade. Anyway, that's not going to happen at the moment. Certainly the euro yen, as you can see here, very much in a sideways pattern, very much in a sideways trend. So again, we're going to be trading short-term levels on the euro yen. We had a trade on there actually where we were selling it around 129.60, 70, and it offered us about 30 pips profit on Friday, but then bounced back into the close. Yen has been the dollar yen has been one of the worst markets for sideways trading action. Well, unless you happen to be an expert scalper and like this kind of thing, but I definitely don't. Looking at the weekly chart, look at it. You know, down 1 week, sideways, then up, then down, then up, then down, and then look, there's just a series of dojis where the market probed up, probed down, but then closed very near to the open for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row. So very difficult. You know, no money to be made on swing trades really for those 5 weeks, that's for sure. Last week looked like we were breaking to the downside, then we rocketed up again. So tested the lower end of the range, rocketed up, and now we're testing the August high, which is a 110.79. Where did we get to? 110.79. So we've stopped bang on that level. I can put a little trend line on there just to remind myself that is the exact high of September. So do we continue to trade within this box, or do we break out? That's the question. I think I'd have to put my money on remaining to trade in the range. I think for the time being, there's no particular indication that we're going to see any dramatic move or the start of a trend, which makes things very frustrating and difficult. Now, Euro US dollar is one market where I'd hoped that we might start to see a trend, but I'm waiting a heck of a long time for that to develop. We've got a trend line going back 10 years here, so it's a very significant 10-year trend line you can see on this weekly chart. Good support from a multiple of Fibonacci levels. The first one is the 23.6% fib going back more than 10 years. The 38.2% fib going back 7 years, and then we have a 38.2% fib here at 1694 going back to the low of 2020. So you have to look at these long-term charts. You've got to be aware. Now, a confluence of fib levels, we've got the big trend line, and we're holding just above the 100 and 200 week moving averages, which have got something of a positive crossover there. So maybe we can start to trend, but again, as you can see from the weekly chart, nothing for the last 3 months, just pure sideways action. Very difficult, can't run a position for long, not really for more than a few hours to be fair. Very much stuck in this range from the 38.2% fib up around 118.80, 119.00 down to 116.60, the previous low. So again, we'll see if a trend can develop. We'll see if we can get a bounce off that very strong support level in oversold conditions. That might give us a swing trade opportunity. Cable, well, you don't have to be an expert technical analyst to see the sideways trend that we have here since the middle of June. So through a whole summer and into September, we have got one big sideways trend for cable. Again, making it very difficult. Any trend that does develop doesn't seem to last longer than 1 week, and of course it takes you a couple of days at least, or 3 days, to realize that we may be even in a trend, and as soon as that happens, a couple of days later the trend just reverses. So yeah, very difficult trading conditions for cable. Same for the Canadian dollar versus the Japanese yen, and even the Canadian dollar versus the US dollar versus the Canadian dollar. Well, something of a trend there, but you know, we've eased up, but really, how could you possibly have held a long position for the last 2 months and actually made any money? So, you know, very much a sideways trend since July. I'm just telling you this because you need to know where the trends are. You need to know if there's any patterns. There just aren't. It makes my job very difficult indeed. But as I say, I do seem to be managing to spot profitable trades on a daily basis, so I will continue to do that. I'm going to crack on with my levels now, but I just hope you appreciate how hard the job is at the moment. And if you're looking at your charts, I'm sure you're finding it extremely difficult. I know I've had some emails from people saying to me, you know, God, I just can't find decent trades on my own charts. Well, that's the reason. Now, oil, well, when you look at it on the grand scale of things, it has just traded sideways. Again, just another sideways market really since sort of May, June of this year. But in the short term, we do have a bullish trend. So we have been trending higher for at least a month, and we are above the moving averages. We have broken out of that trend line, so and come back to revisit the moving averages, which acted as support, which is what they were supposed to do, and now we're pushing higher. So this could be a trend that's worth jumping on. This could have some longevity to it, and we could at least retest the previous high in oil up at 76.98. Well, that's $3 away, so even jumping in now could give us a $3 profit, which would be okay. I guess you'd want to stop below 73.00, which was the previous swing high. Just very simple strategy there. I can tell you that European stock markets really are only in sideways ranges, quite volatile sideways ranges, but it's the US markets that really have the strongest trends. We know that strong bull trend. Even the S&P tested the 23.6% fib and 100-day moving average. Little spike below initially, but then that held as a really good support level, and the markets managed to bounce. US stock markets, they always bounce off support levels. One day that will change, but for now we're sticking with buying into support in the bull trend, waiting for a negative pattern to develop. Having said that, is this a negative pattern that could be developing? I wonder if this is head and shoulders. It's possible. Worth keeping an eye on. Maybe that's the left shoulder head. Maybe we'll develop a right shoulder, and that would be our first indication of the start of a correction. A correction, not necessarily a bear trend, just a correction. We will hit support levels, and bulls will come in and buy this market until we have a more significant negative pattern, which would have to build up over weeks and months for the market to actually reverse, turn into a bear market, and then see a crash. I know lots of people talking about crashes. We all know that the stock markets are probably well overvalued, but they're unlikely to just turn around one day and crash. That's not usually what happens. Wouldn't rule it out, but that's not usually what happens. They usually develop into bear trends and crashes. Okay, that's it. I'm going to crack on with my levels. Oh, why don't I just have a quick look at crypto, Bitcoin. For me, this is developing into a bear trend. Couldn't sustain, couldn't get above the 50 level. Or the 47 level really was my level, and we're testing the 100-day moving average in Bitcoin. I think that will break, and I think we will head lower. Okay, that's it. I'm going to crack on. I will be delivering my reports later on Sunday with my cheat sheet of trade ideas, and we'll crack on with some trading for this week. And I'll be on the Telegram and other channels giving you live updates as usual.